Aeriel was not born into wealth, nor did she possess grand magic. She lived at the edge of Hollowmere, in a cottage half hidden beneath ivy and lilac vines. Each morning she gathered herbs from the forest, whispering to them softly as though they were friends. Her mother had taught her that every leaf carried a purpose and every creature a song. Kindness, she would say, is the truest magic of all. One dusk, as Aeriel crossed the old stone bridge near the Hollowmere road, she saw a riderless horse trembling beside the path. The scent of iron filled the air, a sign of blood. Beneath the shadow of the trees, a man lay wounded, his armor cracked, his banner torn. She looked around. The road was empty. From afar, she saw the torches of merchants and noble travelers, but none stopped. Fear and pride drove them forward. Aeriel hesitated. Bandits sometimes feigned injury to lure the kind. Yet something in her heart whispered, "Help him." She knelt beside the stranger and pressed her glowing hand to his wound. A soft green light bloomed, her magic, faint but pure. "You will live," she murmured. "Hold fast." She lifted him onto her small cart and turned toward her cottage beneath the stars. The night grew colder as Aeriel guided her cart along the mossy road. The stars had dimmed behind drifting clouds, and the wind whispered through the birch trees. She held the reins tightly, her lantern swinging from the cart's edge. The wounded traveler groaned once as the wheels rolled over stones. His face was pale beneath a silver helm. "Where am I?" he whispered. "In Hollowmere," Aeriel answered softly. "You were found on the forest road. Rest now, you are safe." When they reached her ivy-covered cottage, the windows glowed with the warmth of firelight. Aeriel pushed the door open with her shoulder and carefully helped the man inside. Her little home smelled of rosemary, sage, and honeyed tea. She laid him on a straw-stuffed bed, washing his wounds with river water. His armor bore the sigil of a golden hawk, a crest from far away, belonging to the Knights of Varith. She had only heard tales of them, proud warriors who guarded the northern citadels. He watched her quietly as she worked, his eyes glassy with pain. "Why do you help me?" he asked. "You don't know who I am." Aeriel smiled faintly. "One does not need to know a name to show mercy." Her words lingered in the air like a hymn. Through the night, she brewed potions of moonroot and silverbloom, herbs that shimmered faintly when stirred. Each time she touched his wound, her green light flickered brighter, her heart weary but steadfast. At dawn, when the first rays touched the windows, the knight opened his eyes. Color had returned to his cheeks. "You've saved me," he said weakly. "You have my eternal debt." "I ask for none," Aeriel replied. "Just promise, when you are strong again, help someone as you were helped." The knight stared at her, perhaps seeing in her something the world had long forgotten. Kindness without reason. But Hollowmere was not as quiet as it seemed. Outside, the wind shifted strangely, carrying whispers through the trees, whispers of eyes watching from the mist. For the one Aeriel had saved was not just a wounded knight, but the key to a kingdom's hidden war. 3 mornings passed. The knight, whose name was Aeriel of Varith, had regained his strength. Though his wounds still ached, he could stand and speak again. Aeriel tended to him each day, never asking more than his name and where he came from. Yet in his eyes, she saw a storm, guilt and fear entwined. On the 4th dawn, as Aeriel gathered herbs beyond her cottage, she noticed the forest had grown quieter. The birds no longer sang, and the breeze carried faint murmurs like voices half remembered. She turned slowly. The mist between the birch trunks shimmered, and shapes moved within, shadows that bent like figures whispering secrets. "The woods are whispering again," she said under her breath. "Mother warned me this would return when the kingdom is near unrest." A soft cry came from the distance. Aeriel followed the sound through winding paths until she found a small fawn caught in a tangle of briars. Its golden eyes looked at her pleadingly. "Shish," she soothed. "I'll free you." She cut the thorns with her knife, whispering a charm her mother once taught her. The briars loosened and turned to silver dust, vanishing into the air. The fawn stood, but instead of running away, it spoke. Its voice was like wind over glass. "Beware, kind healer. The wounded one you aid carries more than scars. His burden calls the dark into these woods." Before Aeriel could ask what it meant, the fawn dissolved into a shimmer of light. Heart trembling, she hurried back to her cottage. Kale stood outside, staring toward the forest. His armor gleamed again, polished, restored. "They are coming for me," he said quietly. "Riders from the north. If they find me here, they will burn this place to ash." Aeriel's hand tightened on her satchel. "Then we must leave before they arrive." He looked at her, astonished. "You would risk yourself for a stranger still." Her eyes, calm and steady, met his. "I cannot abandon someone who needs healing, even if danger follows." From the trees, a cold horn echoed. The mists began to stir. And as Aeriel gathered her herbs and Kale mounted his horse once more, the road of Hollowmere opened again, leading them toward a destiny neither yet understood. The mists thickened as Aeriel and Sir Kale rode through the forest path. Dawn had not yet touched the sky, and the trees rose tall and ghostly around them. The only sound was the quiet clop of the horses' hooves and the faint rustle of Aeriel's satchel filled with herbs. Kale looked pale beneath his helm. "You should have left me," he said softly. "If they find you aiding me, they will call you traitor." "I do not serve kings or banners," Aeriel answered. "Only mercy." They reached a clearing where moonlight poured like milk through the branches. The mist drifted apart, and from its heart came the thunder of hooves. Black armored riders burst through the fog, their cloaks flaring like shadows. Their leader bore a crimson helm and a banner marked with a bleeding hawk, the same crest Kale once wore, now twisted into something cruel. Kale drew his sword. "They've found me." Aeriel dismounted, standing beside him instead of hiding. "What do they want?" "They hunt me," Kale said grimly. "I refuse to follow their orders. The war in the north is not for honor but greed. I tried to stop it, and they called me traitor." Before he could speak again, the riders circled them, torches blazing. "Sir Kale of Varith," their captain cried, "you will return in chains or die here." Aeriel stepped forward. Her hands glowed with soft green light. "You will not harm him." The riders laughed. "A healer dares to stand in a knight's war." She knelt, pressing her palms to the ground. Vines shimmered from beneath the soil, glowing emerald and gold, coiling upward around the riders' horses. The creatures neighed and reared, scattering sparks. The torches fell, and the firelight bent strangely, repelled by her glow. "Go," Aeriel cried to Kale. He pulled her onto his horse, and they galloped through the misty wood as the riders shouted behind them. Arrows hissed through the air, one grazing Aeriel's shoulder. She winced but held fast, clutching Kale's cloak. The forest blurred past them until the trees gave way to open hills bathed in dawnlight. The riders' horns faded into the distance, muffled by fog. Kale slowed the horse, breathing heavily. "You risked everything for me again." Aeriel smiled weakly, pressing a hand to her shoulder. "I could not leave anyone to fall to darkness, not while there is still light to guide us." He looked at her then, truly looked, as though seeing something divine in the simple girl with the green cloak and gentle voice. In her eyes, the reflection of the rising sun shimmered, quiet, unwavering, and full of mercy. By the time the sun rose fully, Aeriel and Kale had reached the edge of the whispering woods. The mist behind them had thinned, revealing a valley bathed in gold and pale blue. Before them flowed a river so still, it looked like a mirror laid upon the earth. "The river of glass," Kale said in awe. "I have heard of this place. They say its waters reveal what the heart hides." Aeriel dismounted and knelt at the riverbank. The surface was perfectly smooth, reflecting clouds and sky like crystal. She dipped her fingers into it. The water was cold but pure, carrying faint ripples of light that shimmered like stars trapped beneath the surface. Kale knelt beside her. "I was told only the worthy may cross," he said. "The river tests one's truth." Aeriel looked at her reflection. "Then we shall cross with honesty." As she stepped into the water, it did not wet her feet but glowed softly beneath her steps, turning to glass where she touched it. Kale followed, uncertain but trusting her calm. Halfway across, the water began to shift. From the depths rose visions, faint, ghost-like reflections. Aeriel saw herself tending the sick in her cottage, her mother's kind smile, and the lonely years that followed her mother's passing. Then the image darkened. She saw her fear of failing others, of not being enough to heal the world's pain. Her breath caught. The glass beneath her cracked slightly. Kale's voice reached her through the shimmer. "Do not fear what you see. The river reveals not to harm, but to cleanse. He too faced his reflection. A battlefield drenched in fire, comrades falling, his own sword striking under orders he once obeyed without question. His guilt weighed upon him, and the water trembled. Aeriel reached out her hand. "The past is not a chain," she said gently. "It is a root from which mercy grows." Their reflections began to heal, the flames fading, the pain softening into light. The cracks sealed beneath their feet, and the river glowed brighter than before, until it became a path of crystal stretching to the opposite shore. When they reached the bank, the air shimmered with warmth, and a soft voice echoed from the river's depths. "Those who carry mercy shall find the road clear." Aeriel looked back once more. The river behind them flowed freely again, and for a heartbeat, she thought she saw her mother's face smiling in the water before it vanished with the breeze. Kale bowed his head. "You are not just a healer, Aeriel," he said softly. "You are a light in places long forgotten by grace." She smiled faintly, though her eyes shone with tears. "Perhaps, Sir Kale, the light belongs to all who dare to care." And together, they stepped onward, toward the next valley where the air smelled faintly of rain and silver lilies. Beyond the river of glass, the land sloped upward into a misty moor scattered with wildflowers that glowed faintly in the wind. The air was cool, carrying the hush of hidden voices. Kale guided the horse carefully along the uneven path while Aeriel watched the horizon, her cloak billowing softly behind her. At dusk, they came upon an ancient bridge of pale stone. It arched gracefully over a narrow chasm, though the mist below was so deep one could not see its end. Carved upon the bridge's sides were hundreds of faces, human and creature alike, each whispering softly in the wind. Aeriel felt a shiver trace her spine. "The Bridge of Whispers," she murmured. "Mother spoke of it. They say every soul that once crossed in silence left behind an echo." Kale's expression darkened. "It is said the bridge tests what lies unspoken in one's heart." As they stepped onto it, the wind rose, carrying faint murmurs, fragments of memories, regrets, and fears. Aeriel heard her own voice echo back, not from her lips, but from the air around her. "I wish I were stronger. I fear kindness will never be enough." Her chest tightened. The words were her own hidden thoughts, drawn from the depths of her soul. Kale halted beside her, his face pale. From the whispers around him came other voices, commands, screams, a king's cruel laughter. He bowed his head, ashamed. Aeriel reached for his hand. "Do not let shame silence truth. Speak it, and it will lose its power." He looked at her, then faced the mist. "I disobeyed orders because I saw the innocent suffer," he said aloud, voice trembling. "I chose mercy over glory, and I would do it again." The wind paused. The whispers quieted. Aeriel stepped forward and spoke too, her voice gentle yet firm. "I fear the world's pain is greater than I can heal. But even a single act of care is enough to keep the darkness from growing." Light began to bloom along the bridge's carvings. Each stone face smiled faintly, as if freed from sorrow. The bridge pulsed with warmth, turning from cold gray to glowing ivory. When they reached the other side, the mist broke apart, revealing a wide valley filled with silver-leaved trees. The night sky shimmered with distant stars reflected in pools of still water. Kale looked back once more. "You quieted the whispers," he said softly. "No," Aeriel replied. "We listened to them." And for the first time, Kale smiled, a true, peaceful smile that reached his eyes. Beyond the bridge of whispers stretched a broad valley filled with still ponds and silver-leaved trees. The air shimmered faintly, as though it carried the remnants of long-forgotten songs. Every step that Aeriel and Kale took sent soft ripples through the grass, and their echoes lingered longer than sound should. "This is no ordinary valley," Kale murmured. "I hear our voices even when we do not speak." Aeriel closed her eyes and listened. The wind carried faint echoes of laughter, tears, and lullabies, memories that seemed both strange and familiar. "The valley remembers," she said quietly. "It holds the voices of those who once sought mercy and found it." They followed a path of glowing stones to the center, where a ring of ancient obelisks stood around a pool of glass-clear water. The stones were etched with words in a forgotten tongue. Aeriel knelt beside one and traced a symbol glowing faintly beneath her touch. The ground shimmered. From the pool rose ghost-like shapes, people formed of light and mist. Their voices joined in a chorus that filled the valley like music woven from memory. Who seeks the blessing of the echoes? They asked, their voices blending like a single note. Aeriel bowed her head. We seek passage through Hollowmere's heart, she said. And the strength to heal what war has broken. The spirits drifted closer, circling them in soft light. One reached out, a woman made of starlit mist whose eyes reminded Aeriel of her mother's. Then show us your hearts, she said gently. For the echoes reveal only what is true. Kale stepped forward first. The light around him deepened, showing visions of battlefields and banners aflame. He faced them without turning away, until the images dissolved into peace. I seek forgiveness, he said. Then Aeriel's turn came. The air thickened with warmth, and the pool showed visions of her cottage, her patience, her long nights alone tending to others while hiding her own loneliness. Tears shimmered in her eyes. I seek courage, to keep choosing kindness, even when it hurts. At her words, the water burst into radiant light. The spirits smiled, their voices rising in a hymn that felt like dawn breaking. Kindness given without measure is the purest magic. Go forth, Healer of Hollowmere. The way ahead is open. The spirits faded, leaving the valley silent and bright. The echoes of their words lingered like the afterglow of stars. Kale looked to Aeriel. They called you, Healer of Hollowmere. She smiled softly. Perhaps it was never just a title. Perhaps it is a promise. And as they left the valley, the echoes followed them, not haunting, but singing, as if blessing every step. The path beyond the valley of echoes wound through meadows dusted with starlight dew. The night air carried the faint scent of roses and iron, a strange mixture of beauty and remembrance. Aeriel's lantern glowed softly as she and Kale followed a narrow trail bordered by marble ruins overtaken by vines. At the crest of the hill, they reached a gate of twisted silver. Beyond it lay a vast garden shrouded in moonlight. The air shimmered with old magic. Inside, thorns coiled around fallen statues and shattered thrones. Rusted crowns lay scattered like forgotten promises, their jewels dull from age. It was a hauntingly beautiful place, half a graveyard, half a sanctuary. What is this place? Kale asked in awe. The Garden of Broken Crowns, Aeriel whispered. My mother once told me it was where kings came to bury their pride. They walked among the silent relics. The crowns glimmered faintly as they passed, as though remembering voices of the past. Kale knelt before one, a tarnished golden circlet split in two. This belonged to King Varen, he murmured. He began the wars that tore my homeland apart. Aeriel touched the broken metal gently. Even the proud can break, she said. But brokenness does not mean beyond healing. As she spoke, a faint hum filled the air. The thorns around them began to move, coiling toward the shattered thrones. From beneath the roots, ghostly figures rose, kings, queens, and rulers of long ago, each wearing a broken crown. Their eyes glowed with sorrow. Why do you walk among our shame? One spirit asked, voice like wind through stone. Aeriel bowed her head. To understand, to forgive. The spirits circled her. Forgive. None remember our mercy, only our ruin. Then let me remember it for you, she said softly. Let this garden be not a grave of guilt but a seedbed of renewal. She opened her satchel and scattered silverleaf seeds upon the soil. Her green light flowed from her hands, and where the seeds touched, flowers bloomed, silver lilies glowing like moons. The spirits' crowns began to mend, faintly at first, then with radiant light. The broken metal knit together until the crowns gleamed again, not as symbols of rule, but of humility. You have turned sorrow into peace, said the spirit of the first king. May your mercy heal even the thrones of men. As the spirits faded, the garden transformed, thorns retracting, flowers spreading in soft waves of silver light. Kale stood beside her, eyes wide with wonder. You did what no sword ever could, he said. You brought peace to the dead. Aeriel smiled faintly. No one is truly lost if kindness remembers them. They rested there until dawn, surrounded by lilies that glowed like stars fallen to earth. By sunrise, the Garden of Broken Crowns lay behind them, glowing faintly in the valley like a dream made real. The air ahead grew colder, and the land sloped upward once more toward jagged cliffs crowned by a single towering spire of white stone. Kale stopped his horse at the ridge. The Tower of Mercy, he said, breath misting in the wind. They say it stands at the edge of the mortal realm, where hearts are weighed before they find peace. Aeriel gazed upward. The tower shimmered faintly, built of stone so pure it seemed woven from moonlight. Bells rang faintly from its unseen heights, their sound carrying through the valley like a distant hymn. "Perhaps that is where our journey ends," she said softly. Kale looked at her with a mixture of awe and sorrow. "And what do you seek at its summit?" She smiled faintly. "Not reward, only understanding." They climbed the steep path in silence. As they neared the entrance, two great statues flanking the gate stirred to life, winged figures carved from marble, their eyes radiant with golden light. "Who seeks entry?" they intoned in unison. "I am Aeriel of Hollowmere," she said. "I seek the heart of mercy." The statues bowed slightly. "Then you may enter. But know this, mercy demands more than words. It will ask what you are willing to give." Inside, the tower spiraled upward endlessly. Light poured from cracks in the stone, forming steps that shimmered beneath her feet. With each level, the air grew warmer and her magic dimmer, as though the tower tested her strength. Kale followed close behind until, halfway up, the light thickened into a barrier of gold. A voice filled the chamber. "Only one may ascend beyond this point." Kale turned to her, alarmed. "No, you cannot face this alone." Aeriel reached for his hand. "You have already faced your trial, Kale. Mine waits above." He looked as though he would argue, but she smiled and whispered, "Have faith." Then she stepped through the golden veil. The upper chamber was silent and vast. In its center stood a mirror of pure light. Within it, Aeriel saw every act of kindness she had ever given, and every wound she could not heal. The mirror whispered, "To heal others, you must first forgive yourself." Her heart trembled. She thought of all those she had failed to save, of nights spent weeping alone. She had carried that sorrow like armor, thinking it made her strong. But now she saw, it had only made her afraid to rest. She placed her hands on the mirror. "Then let mercy begin with me." Light burst outward. The tower filled with warmth so radiant it felt like the dawn of creation. When the glow faded, Aeriel stood renewed, her hands no longer trembling, her heart clear. She descended the stairs to find Kale waiting below, eyes wide in reverence. "You shine," he whispered. She laughed softly. "Not I, mercy itself. It dwells in all who dare to love without measure." The bells rang once more, brighter than before, echoing across the whole of Hollowmere. When Aeriel and Kale descended from the Tower of Mercy, the valley below was no longer shrouded in mist. Instead, light spread over the land like a living breath. The once faded meadows shimmered green again, rivers ran clear, and the distant mountains gleamed as though they too had awakened. It was dawn in Hollowmere, not just of day, but of spirit. The bells of the tower rang in harmony with the wind, their notes echoing across the kingdom. Wherever the sound touched, broken things began to mend. Abandoned villages stirred with life, withered trees burst into bloom, and those long divided by pride felt their hearts soften. Aeriel stood at the ridge overlooking it all, her cloak fluttering in the golden breeze. Kale dismounted beside her, his armor gleaming softly in the morning sun. "You've done what no warlord or king ever could," he said quietly. "You've healed a kingdom." She shook her head gently. "No. The kingdom healed itself when mercy returned to its heart." Down the slope, people began to appear, villagers, travelers, even nobles who had once passed the wounded without stopping. They followed the sound of the bells to the foot of the tower, carrying torches, gifts, and garlands. When they saw Aeriel, they knelt, not in worship, but in gratitude. One small child ran forward and pressed a wildflower into her hand. "You helped my mother when she was sick," she said. "She told me kindness makes light grow." Aeriel knelt and smiled. "Then you must carry that light now, little one." As the crowd gathered, Kale stepped forward and raised his sword, not in pride but in pledge. "From this day," he declared, "the Knights of Varith shall serve not war, but mercy. We will guard the weak, heal the fallen, and protect those who give without reward." The people cheered softly, their voices blending like morning birds. Aeriel's gaze lifted toward the sky. The light of dawn reflected in her eyes like twin suns. She felt her mother's presence in the breeze, a whisper, gentle and proud. "Kindness is the truest magic of all." Tears glimmered on her cheeks, but they were not of sorrow, only of wonder. That night, a great celebration filled Hollowmere. The bells of the tower rang in rhythm with songs sung by every hearth. Lanterns floated upon rivers, carrying messages of peace. Aeriel watched them drift beneath the stars, her heart calm at last. Kale approached her, holding out a small token, a single silver crown mended from the garden they had saved. "The people wish you to have this," he said softly. She shook her head with a smile. "Let it rest in the tower. Mercy belongs to all, not one." And so it was done. From that day forward, travelers crossing the Hollowmere road would find healing at the cottage beneath the lilacs, where a gentle light always burned in the window. No one left without hope, and those who received kindness often found themselves passing it on, the miracle of mercy continuing in every heart it touched. And when storms rolled across the land, and shadows threatened again, people would whisper, "Greater than, remember the Healer of Hollowmere, the girl who taught the kingdom that compassion can raise even the fallen dawn." Cherry Blossom Moral Lesson: true mercy is the courage to love those who cannot repay you. It asks for no reward, yet it transforms the world, healing hearts, kingdoms, and even time itself. Kindness is the magic that endures when all else fades. For more motivation fairy tale stories, please like, share and subscribe this channel. Thanks and God bless.